If you need to get stronger, more explosive, and more powerful in a short amount of time, I'm gonna share with you the explosive lower body training workout that I just did recently that is powered by contrast training. If you don't know me, my name is Nick Lyden. I'm a certified strength and conditioning coach and owner of the Peak Performance Program, where we work with hundreds of athletes ranging from rugby to combat sports, soccer, and everything in between. So I'm going to be breaking down this entire strategy and entire workout so that you can implement what you learn into your training programs yourself, or just simply copy and paste this into your program. First thing, we have our dynamic warm-up, right? Get going, get everything ready. Then what we're going to do, and again, I mentioned a little bit, we're using contrast training. So contrast training, in essence, is working both ends of the spectrum of power development. So power is force times velocity or speed, right? So with power development, we need to make sure that we are able to produce high levels of force, but also do it very, very quickly. With contrast training, we get both ends of the spectrum to develop both sides of the power equation to make you a more powerful and more explosive athlete. With contrast training, you are taking typically a heavier loaded based movement and then pairing it with a similar plyometric or power based movement. Now, there are a few wrinkles that we can do to target some specific aspects of athletic development, which I'll cover here in a bit. But one of the main benefits from not only saving time in a workout that you get from contrast training and it being honestly really fun is that you achieve something called post-activation potentiation. So big fancy word. All that really means is that with the first exercise, typically the heavier loaded movement, we are priming the central nervous system. We're getting a lot of motor unit recruitment. We're basically telling the body, hey, we need to produce high levels of force. And then when we go into our subsequent exercise, which is typically your plyometric or power-based movement, you have a greater performance on that plyometric movement. And that's the whole concept of what we're doing. So let's dive into the actual workout. So you can see 1A, 2A, 1A, or 1B, 2B, 1C, 2C. Okay, so that just means that's the grouping, right? That's the contrast set. That's the superset, essentially. Okay. Now, before we talk into exactly what exercises we're doing, typically with contrast training, you want to do it as close as you can to or after your first exercise without feeling fatigued going into that second exercise. It's also another reason why you're going to see that the sets and reps are super low, because we're not trying to fatigue and break down the muscles. We're simply trying to challenge the central nervous system, challenge the muscles, but not overly fatigue them. So that's where the volume is going to be low. So with your rest periods, typically in the beginning when I'm doing these, it's anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds. As I get into my later rounds, sometimes I'm up to 45 seconds, even a minute of rest in between before I finish and then take my big rest at the end of the second exercise as a little tip for yourself. The first exercise that we're getting into, so we're gonna start off with a hip and hamstring. And you're gonna see that these are different force vectors that we're trying to challenge. So we're literally covering all aspects of the force output, right? So we're gonna get horizontal here, vertical here, and then some lateral power development and strength development as well. And then we'll cover the accessories in a bit. So the first movement that we're doing is a hip and hamstring, or glute and hamstring is what we're prioritizing. And with that, we're getting a little bit more of a horizontal based movement out of it, okay? The goal of this is to be very fast and have very short ground contact time. So you're gonna see that both of these movements are going to mimic that. And the reason we're doing this is to specifically target how the muscle action occurs during sprinting. During sprinting, it's a very rapid extension and flexion that happens on the leg, and then a very, very quick eccentric action that happens on the hamstring during sprinting. So that's what we're trying to mimic here and target here with this. So we're starting off with a banded RDL. This banded RDL, our goal is to have a fast eccentric, okay? And the reason the band is there is simply to help you get down faster into that bottom position and then reverse the motion coming back up as fast as possible, okay? So that's the band, the reason the band there, it makes it a little bit easier. And the whole goal of this, again, is to have that fast eccentric and then rapidly change from eccentric to concentric back on up, which is going to be challenging that amortization phase, which is the brief gap in between eccentric to concentric movement actions, which is what happens in sports. Very fast, very rapid. So we have the banded RDL, fast eccentric focus. Now, if you've never done these, I will say these are more advanced and you need to start a little bit regressed, right? So first, just control the movement coming up and coming back. Then you can start to work on just doing a fast concentric. Still gonna work really, really well. Just have that controlled eccentric. And then once you're comfortable, you can start to do a fast eccentric into a fast concentric muscle action. But again, technique and positioning needs to be really on point for this so you're not putting yourself at any increased risk for injury. So typically we're doing 3 to 4 sets, 4 to 5 reps, nothing that's really gonna fatigue us too much. And with this, you're not thinking, I know I said heavy with contrast training, but for this, we're really trying to target, again, how the hamstring works in sprinting, which is a very, very fast eccentric, and we're trying to prime that before going into a sprint. So that's why we're gonna be using anywhere from about 20 to 30% plus the bands on the actual movement. After we get done with that, again, 15, 20, 30-second rest so you're feeling good. Then you're gonna go either into a sprint, and this is just like a fly 10, fly 20, or a build-up sprint, which you can do on an assault runner, which I really love at the gyms. And your whole goal is to build and sprint and hit your top speed and then get off, right? So all we're trying to do is hit that maximum velocity speed and then we're done. If you are not comfortable running a sprint quite yet, or you haven't done it in a very long time, then I would recommend that you go into something like a straight leg pull, where you're still getting a very quick eccentric action and a lot of force production quickly, but it's a little less strenuous on the actual hamstrings that you're gonna be doing. Okay, so for single or straight leg pulls, anywhere from 20 to 30 yards, you're gonna need a little bit of room, and you're gonna really focus on pulling yourself as far as you possibly can with each and every step. So that's our first portion of our workout, right? We get our fast, we get our explosive, we get our speed-based training in when we're fresh so we can get the most out of it. Now we're gonna get into more power-based work, okay? So we're gonna work the vertical force vector, right? Vertical force production, and we're gonna be doing trap bar deadlifts into approach hurdle hops. So with the trap bar deadlift, this is the one, let's get it. Let's go get powerful, right? Let's build some strength. We're going heavy with this. Because our paired plyometric has a longer ground contact time built into it to match the force production of the heavier trap bar deadlift. Okay, so it's a little bit longer force production, a little bit longer power production here, right? So we're really trying to emphasize overall force and power output with this. So with the approach hurdle hop, now the rig I'm using is a little janky. You can just use a couple of boxes. 2-3 steps, build up, trying to jump as high as you possibly can, okay? 3 to 4 sets of each. Again, this is really gonna target your vertical force production and help increase your vertical jump with what you're doing in athletics. Now, the next one is, honestly, I really love this one, and it's for lateral force production. So it's a drop-in lateral lunge. Again, sets are gonna be 3 to 4 sets, 5 reps. We're not really going over 5 reps in anything we're doing today, which I found is probably the highest amount of reps that you can do before you start to see significant force and power output drop off. So that's why we're keeping it at the 5 reps. As the weeks go on, what you'd want to do is start to drop the reps down a little bit and increase the number of sets and increase the load that you are doing. With drop-in lateral lunge, I like a front rack position, gets the core involved a little bit. And when you're doing this, you're trying to keep your leg up and your knee up and hold that position for as long as you can as you fall over to the side and then quickly decelerate. And then your goals are trying to push yourself up as hard as you possibly can to get back up to standing tall. So you're thinking of attacking the ground and pushing and coming back up, because when we get into our power-based movement, that's exactly what you're doing. So for all of you that really are trying to improve some agility and cutting mechanics and overall ability to change direction, these are going to be a great pairing to have in your training block. So we're pairing that with either a skater or a skier jump. So a skater jump is a unilateral lateral base plyometric or jump. A skier jump is a little bit of a regressed version of this, a little bit easier to get started with, where you're using both feet to then jump laterally or bound laterally. So depending on where you're at with your overall athletic development and progression in training, you can choose to do any of these combinations. So you can either start with a skier jump and then move into a skater jump. The next progression from that would be moving into bound. So bound is a repeat cyclical action of power output where you get a good amount of the stretch shortened cycle to happen, the quick ground contact times. It's overall going to be a little bit better for your athletic and power development. And then lastly, you can go into a skier bound or a skier jump. So 3 to 4 sets of 5 reps if you're going to be doing the jumps, or about 15 yards if you're going to be doing the bounds. After we get done with our horizontal, our vertical, and our lateral power output with our contrast training, now we're going to round out the rest of the workout to make sure that we're leaving no stones unturned. So one of the things that it hasn't been necessarily hit too hard within this first kind of meat and potatoes of our training has been our growing, okay? And that's where we're going to add in a Copenhagen lift, which is going to challenge the growing plus an isometric at the end to just, again, help strengthen it. So 3 sets, 10 reps, and about a 10-second isometric at the top. The last 2 are really to help develop the ankle complex and the tendons in the ankle and to improve your elastic strength. The reason this is important is because you can be as big, as strong, as powerful as possible, but if you can't effectively transfer all that force that you can generate with your legs through the ground, which the last point of contact is going to be through your foot, you're not going to be able to transfer that force as well and be as fast, be as explosive, jump as high as you want. So that's where we're really working on the elastic strength and tendon qualities to help the overall force transfer. And then one of the best ways to do that is with overcoming isometrics. So we're going to be working both the gastroc and the soleus. And the soleus can handle a lot more force than the gastroc overall, but we want to make sure that we're training both of them. And the soleus is going to be a little bit more responsible for some of the force transfer that happens in sprinting and change of direction. So we have a plantar flex overcoming isometric. So you're getting underneath the bar, leaning into it, getting up on your toe, bracing your core, and you're trying to drive through the floor and absolutely bend the bar in half. It's max effort, 10 seconds on each side. Rest for about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, and then do it again. After that, now we're going to challenge our soleus, like I mentioned, in the dorsiflex position. Again, same concepts. You're getting underneath the bar. You might have to lower it down just a little bit, getting just enough under your heel where you can slide like a pencil through underneath your heel, okay? Knees over the toes, and you're driving straight on up, trying to, again, push and bend that bar in half, and that's really gonna help challenge your tendons and joint-specific strength in that area, which is gonna help you all overall. So if you like this workout in this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit the little bell notification, and comment down below any questions that you may have, and I'll be answering them as much as I can. And if you're looking for long-term athletic development that follows the systems and the methods that we use, the exact progressions and regressions that you need in order to maximize your athletic development, check out some of the links below and check out the Peak Performance Program, and I'll see you in the next video.